Um, I think we're a small group. I think we'll probably just keep this fairly informal today, and we'll just see what your questions are, what your needs are, what you want to focus on, and see where it takes us, if that sounds okay. I'll start by introducing myself, and then let's take some time to get to know each of you a little bit. I'd like to talk a little bit about what some of your thoughts are, questions are, struggles with lead generation, some of those kind of things. What are some of the things that you want to focus on? And there's Sarah. Cool. So we'll go through some of those things, and then yeah, let's jump into it. So I when my teacher asked me what I wanted to be in first grade, I said I want to be a carpenter. Spent most of my life wanting to be a contractor. My dad taught construction management while I was growing up, and so we would build houses in the summertime when he wasn't teaching at the college, and he taught at BYU. And so anyway, construction was kind of my path, and I became a general contractor, was building homes, and when the last recession hit, I kind of dried up. I didn't have much business, and so that's when I got into real estate. I had a friend that was a broker, and I was looking for anything to supplement my income, and he said, "Well, go get your license, and we'll put you to work." And so when I first got into real estate, I worked with, it was like an investment brokerage. So we worked with investors, helping them find homes locally and using a specific strategy to do their investments here. And then that kind of shifted to Arizona and Las Vegas, where opportunities were a little better than here. They wanted me to move, and I didn't want to. So that's when I joined a traditional brokerage, and I learned about lead generation and how to go out and sell and find my own business opportunities. And so um, that's been really an amazing opportunity for personal growth for me and developing a skill set that I kind of struggled with on the construction side. The sales part of it wasn't really my forte. And so it's been a fun journey and continues to be. There's so much opportunity for personal development in real estate, and that's one of the things I love the most about what we do here. So um, and I joined KW about just over a year ago. And so this is my fourth brokerage I've been at, and I love it here. I've seen some people come and get started and then go somewhere else. And I think, what are you thinking? It can't get any better than here. But we all have different needs. And for me, this is a really good fit. I love the training here, the culture. There's just, I think, a lot of great resources that have really helped me to level up my business and the service that I offer. And so I'm super grateful to be here and to learn from a lot of great agents. And I hope that we can learn some great things together in our time this morning. So, Amy, do you want to start off? Maybe tell us a little bit about you and some of your background and why you're here and what you hope to learn this morning.
Or I was doing real estate, like I was a teacher, and then I had my kids, and stayed home with my kids. I've been really involved with PTA, president, treasurer, volunteering in the community, and thought, I've done so much volunteer work. I'm ready to have a job and earn some money. Um, so I thought about what I do. I went back to substitute teaching and decided I wanted to try something else. So I got my real estate license, and I feel like I've got a network of people. I love connecting with people. I love, like, when I go somewhere, my husband always jokes, like, you always know people wherever you go. Um, but, and I love helping people. I do worry. I don't want, those relationships are important to me. I don't want a relationship to feel like now there's an agenda. So I kind of worry about that. But yeah, my kids are getting older. I have a little more time. They're teenagers graduating from high school, and just kind of thinking the next phase of life. This is what I thought would be a nice thing to try.
Awesome.
I taught elementary school. Taught, yeah, and forum actually. We knew that elementary before. Yeah. Third grade. And I've taught like math Olympiads. My kids needed more in math and they weren't able to get that. So a few of us moms said, well, if we teach math Olympiads, can we do that for the kids who need more? So I've been teaching math Olympiads to the classes with my kids. Now they're out of elementary school, so yeah.
Okay, awesome. What do you like to do for recreation?
What don't I like to do? I love skiing
Okay,
and I am on a lead for tennis. So I had a tennis match yesterday, actually.
awesome.
Uh, Pickleball, hiking, snowshoeing too, but skiing
Okay,
and tennis are I spend a lot of time.
fantastic. Cool. Okay, you brought up some good points that we'll get back to, so I appreciate that. Scarlett?
In a nutshell, I have been a single mother for almost 16 years, I think, and I raised my 6 children primarily, well, on my own, um, but they are all grown and raised. And my last one just turned 19 recently, and when he was done with high school, I was like, okay, it's time for me to leave because I was very, very fortunate and blessed to be able to stay home with them for the most part and just do odd jobs here and there. But it was time for me to spread my wings and fly. And I've always been interested in real estate and, like Amy, you said it, you spoke my heart where it was like, I love connecting with people and I love people. And so, I'm stuck at that same point, where I don't want to make my relationships have an agenda now. And so I'm still that secret agent, Trent. I got my license the end of September, and I had to work for a couple months back in the winter. And so now I'm trying to, come out of my shell and go, come on, Scarlett, you can get going. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. We'll talk some more about that. Sounds awesome. Why real estate?
I always wanted to have it myself. Um, I'm a big thinker in that, I want land, I want ranch, I want a ranch. Um, to me, it's the best way to, change. You can change your life drastically through investments, and once you get on that ladder of real estate, I think that the sky's the limit.
Yeah,
If you understand how to manage things, to me, it's a ticket to freedom.
so much opportunity here. You're right. Good. Okay, and it's Janet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I got my license in February, but I've also just broke my shoulder. So it kind of, I couldn't really do anything with a broken shoulder. So I just kind of sat around. I've been in real estate since the year 2000. I got my license and I sold. And after 9/11, my husband, his company started having layoffs and cutting hours and pay and all that because everything slowed down for a bit of a time. And so we decided it would be better for me to go into the admin of real estate, which I did. And I worked in that pretty much since 2002. And I was fine there. I liked doing the admin work. That was great. And mostly transaction coordinating. But then I moved here and in 2022 and I worked remotely. So I still worked for the same company. And then I was laid off in September. And so I was getting my license slowly but surely because I just wanted it. But I was offered a job at Oak Banker, an admin job. And
it's funny because, I need the money. I'm now on my own, but I didn't want it. I just didn't want it. And I even got to pay more than they were offering and everything. And funny, I was what's called an I-9 fail because I didn't have the hard driver's license. I only had the paper. And I said, see, that's a sign. I want to go in to be a salesperson. And so I just, couldn't get hired at Coldwell Banker. And so I just followed that, becoming a salesperson. And like I said, now I'm still doing TC work for a brokerage, but those all close this month. And then once they close and I get paid, everything, then I can officially become an agent.
Okay.
And I'm like both of you, I don't know anybody. That's one of my.
I was going to ask, your database is pretty small
Yes.
here. Okay. Uh-huh.
So I could potentially get some leads there. But I don't know anything here. Especially when you work remote, you don't get out there. And plus the other problem has always been everyone I know is in real estate. I don't know anyone who works at the city or wherever. I just know real estate people. So that's my hill.
Okay. Okay. We'll talk some about that too. Sarah?
I'm Sarah, and I've been licensed since the beginning of March. And all of you ladies are speaking to my heart. Amy, Scarlett, and Janet, right? I feel the same way. I was a preschool teacher. I owned my own preschool business. I'm a mom of 5. I was married for a really long time. That did not work out. And it was a very challenging time. That marriage was very challenging. And so I was one of 11 children. And I just kind of had this mindset that I was always in survival mode. And it carried into like the person I married and just like working hard. And if I can work harder and harder and harder, I'll eventually get on top of all of that. And I did, that mentality worked for me for a long time. But it also, I'm now in a place where I have a lot more knowledge and things are very clear. And my kids are a little older now. I do have 2 adult children. I have 2 grandchildren even, and 3 teenagers at home. And so being a business owner at like 23, I do have the mindset of an entrepreneur. And I ran that business for many years. I could do that while being a stay-at-home mom. So I feel like I had the best of both worlds. And then since I've been single, I've had the opportunity to flip 2 homes.
Wow.
And so I do have this mindset of like I can do it, and I've learned a lot being a homeowner and doing hard stuff because I felt like a single mom for many years because he was always gone. So I'm now, in my 40s, mid-40s, and I just have this perspective of I want to do this for me and my family. I want to create this generational wealth. I'm like Scarlett. I was just talking to my son when I drove him to school today. He missed the bus, and I was grateful when he misses the bus when he sleeps in because I can drive him and we can talk. He's 13. And I said, I want a ranch someday. And he's like, Mom, you think you can take care of a ranch by yourself? I'm like, well, if I have to, I will, because I always have. That's just my nature. But eventually I'd like to have something, to help me. But I said, but that's what you're really good at taking care of things. And he's kind of a little like entrepreneur himself. Bought his dream lawnmower like 2 weeks ago, and he's mowing lawns like crazy. He's really good at it. So I said, I have you, and I have your brothers and your sisters. And so I just sat and talked with him about what my goals are. I said, I want a ranch. I want multiple homes. And so just this last month, I was able to buy my first investment property out of state. in St. Louis, Missouri. So
Nice.
I closed on that about a month ago. And so I love every aspect of real estate. I love the home. I love the yard. I love the garden. I love houseflipping. I love to help people find their dream home. And it really is like, I'm so grateful I finally found my groove. Because for so many years, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can do this. I can teach again. I can, flip homes. It wasn't like a culmination of everything I loved. And now everything from the past that I've done is now this like feeding this one pipeline of being a realtor. And I know it's where it's supposed to be.
Awesome.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I came here. I agree with you. This is like the best brokerage ever.
Yeah.
I'm an interview.
It is. It's awesome here. And I haven't met you. Paula? Okay. Okay. You're 18? Fantastic. Did you go to school here in Orem, or is this home for you? Springville. Okay. Great. Fantastic. What caused you to get into real estate? Yeah. I love it. Good.
Very, very smart.
Fantastic.
Anytime it's wise
Very good. Well, I appreciate all of you letting us know. It's funny, both of you mentioned ranches. So my dad, when he retired from BYU, went up to Star Valley, Wyoming. I was telling you, my folks live up there, and bought a 40-acre ranch up there, actually just 40 acres, and built a ranch. And he's got this beautiful property up there that is a fun family heritage. It's an interesting thing, like you talk about, what we can do to create things in real estate. Our family's circumstances are completely different. We love to just escape to their property in Wyoming and spend time together. And it's riding horses and sledding. And these are the things that we dream about. And without real estate, it would be difficult to do any of those things. So it is fun to accomplish some things that are meaningful to us and to our children, and really create a difference for those who follow behind us. So my next question is going to be more geared toward the lead generation side of things. What are some of the things that you have done or would like to do? What do you want to learn to do? I'm seeing some different personalities here. Some of us are super outgoing, and we have networks and people and lots of connections. And some of us are brand new to the area. Some of us are young and may not have a lot of people who in our network who have wealth and the ability to buy real estate. And so we've all got different circumstances, and we've got to figure out, how are we going to feed our business? How are we going to grow our business? And so tell me a little bit about some of your thoughts or experiences so far with lead generation, and maybe what you envision your lead generation being as you begin to grow your business. How are you going to feed your business? What are some things that we can focus on today that will help you with that? We'll start again with you, Amy. And I think you already touched on this, so you don't have to. Sure.
Asking what are some things we've done.
Yeah.
To share with each other.
Yeah.
One thing I did was yesterday. We have this. I actually live 4 houses away from Splash Summit.
Okay.
Like a neighborhood nestled there up against the mountain. So I have family always coming to my house, seeing Splash Summit, but a lot of my family members don't go to the park. And I thought, I don't really have clients, but I have family. And that would allow my family, who are very networked where they are, to know. It's a great way to introduce to them that I'm a real estate agent. Here's a fun event. I want you to know I'm with Keller Williams. And so I just started reaching out to my family members and told them that I joined with Keller Williams. We're doing this fun friends and family event and wondered if they wanted to go. And you know what? A lot of them were like, thank you so much for thinking of me. This sounds so fun. How's real estate going? You know, and so I was able to just tell them how great the classes are here, how friendly everyone is. And I told them how we have this great team. If we have any questions we don't know, we have great people to ask those questions to. So that allowed them to, so they know that I'm new, but
Sure.
I have a team.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that was kind of fun to make those phone calls yesterday. The Splash Summit thing is a great way to offer them something. I don't think those family members are going to be selling, right? But they know a lot of people. And so they even said, oh, I wish I knew someone who was selling. I did a month ago. And we talked about that. And I said, well, just remember, keep me in mind if you know people who do.
Yes.
It's very casual.
Love it.
Natural.
I love it.
I felt it was fun. It was really fun.
Yeah. Can we stop and unpack this a little bit? So some things that some really important principles I think are keeping it natural, keeping it about them. When we have a purpose to call someone that is going to enrich their life, or we have something to offer to someone that they're going to appreciate, it's not hard to make that phone call, is it? It's exciting to make that phone call. And so I think one of the key things when we're reaching out to people that we know or people that we don't know is to create value for them, or to approach that phone call typically with maybe a few ideas of points of value that we could offer. Maybe it is someone who's interested in investing in real estate and we've learned something that we can share with them that might help them with their investment journey. Or maybe it's inviting them to an event, or uh, maybe it's just being really good at reaching out to people and finding out what their needs are. There was some of you would have been here, but a little while ago, Heather Groom had a chance to talk to all of us in the room. And one of the key things that stuck out to me is she said, my job is to solve problems for people. And she said, I'm really good at being able to figure out problems that people have and be a solution for them. And she said, as long as I do that, I'm going to be successful. Um, Heather is very well networked. She was the head of the campaign committee or something, head of something for the governor. And so she networked with some of the wealthiest people in the state that were supporting the governor. And she's maintained those relationships and continued to stay in touch with them. She's known as someone who, if you can't get a passport when you need one in a hurry, she's got connections and can help you do that. And so she's just found ways to be able to reach out to people and find out what their needs are, and whether it's related to real estate or not. If it's something that she can do, she makes it a point to do anything that she can to help people. So it's, she maintains those genuine relationships. The agenda isn't there. The agenda is, I want to help you, whether it's with real estate or anything. And when we have a genuine interest in other people and a love and a desire to help them, that comes through. And the real estate agenda isn't the top of the pyramid as far as what they view in our interest, if that makes sense.
And I felt okay not even asking, I didn't even ask, do you know people who are buying and selling? My goal was just the first little step, because I thought down the road I can ask that. And my only agenda was offering a party.
Yeah. And
I don't know if that was right.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think in conversations with people, one of the things that I've learned is authenticity just really is something that keeps relationships open, and we can avoid the awkward agendas and things like that. I think you expressing that to us as a group just tells me that would be a good thing to include in conversations with people. Say, listen, my goal is to stay in touch with you periodically and just maintain the same kind of friendship that we have. I'd love to work with you and answer any real estate questions that you have, or love to help your friends and family and receive referrals from you. But most important, I don't ever want to do anything that would jeopardize our relationship. Um, I don't want it to be weird or awkward. And so if there's something that I do that, is off-putting or something, please let me know. I think it's okay just to be very vulnerable with people and say, this is kind of awkward for me. I'm transitioning into something new. It's a different role and maybe a different aspect of our relationship. And you're important to me, I think is really the thing that we want to communicate. You're important to me, whether it's related to real estate or not. And if there's an opportunity to serve you, I'd love to do that. So I love some of the things that you're doing there, Amy, and good job for reaching out. It's kind of scary to step out and start making those phone calls. But one of the other things I wanted to come back to is that the biggest reason that we do events is not about getting people to the event. It's about the communication before and after the event. It's about having an excuse to call about something other than real estate and offer value to someone, tell them that you appreciate them and that you want to invite them to do something that's fun and, could be meaningful and add to your relationship. So that's why we do events. Sometimes we think that um, you know, it's not successful if a lot of people don't show up. It's successful if we make a lot of contacts and have a lot of conversations with people. And so it's just one more reason to reach out to people in a very natural way for something that's fun. Some of us are good at throwing parties and having fun things like that. And that's a little bit outside my comfort zone, but it still is a good natural way for me to reach out to people and say, hey, we did a transaction last year and I really appreciate the relationship that we've had. And I just want to invite you to come do something fun. So, yeah.
I talked to my nephew. He just graduated from college, and I told him about this party. He said, "Oh, that sounds really fun." Yeah, and I said, "Yeah, you can bring your girlfriend." And he said, "Well, they have like a meeting with it, like to learn about real estate." And I thought he was thinking that would be a turnoff. I said, "No, this is just for fun. This is just kind of for people with client appreciation and just to see people." And he kind of sounded disappointed. He said, "Oh," he said, "because my girlfriend and I, when we were dating, after 3 weeks, we went to some new home buyer presentation. We really liked it. We're really interested in figuring out how to buy a home." And then I said, "Oh, well, I can totally talk to you about this and I can answer questions. I don't, I don't have the answers. I can go find them." But he obviously wants to know. And so I was a little bit not sure, like, what to tell him. So I don't know what a seasoned real estate agent would have said to that who wants to know more. I was just telling him a few things that I knew.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wondered what you would say.
Well, the biggest thing that comes to mind is that people want to know about real estate. They have questions, and a lot of times when you make a contact with someone, if the relationship isn't strong enough that they have this trust with you, sometimes they feel like they're talking to a salesperson and they don't want to ask the questions that they really have because they feel like you might try and sell them something. Does that make sense? So know that a lot of times under the surface, if you can create that relationship of trust, under the surface, there are things that they may be saying they don't have an interest in, but will show up after you get through that initial barrier. The other thing that I think is important is that one lead generation thing that you can do to create value with your database is to offer seminars. Offer to have people come in and have a class. I've just started this year, and I've been doing a seminar once a month focused on investment. And so I've been teaching some of those kind of things with investing. I've had some guest speakers come in. Like one of the guest speakers I had come in is a young kid. I think he's just now engaged, 23 years old, 24. He's bought and flipped and done some things with 4 different properties. He has three rental units right now. And I thought it was just fantastic to have him come in and kind of share his journey so far, some of the mistakes that he's made, and some of the things that he's learned, and his mindset, how he's so driven to do this at such a young age. And it was fascinating. One of the next ones that I'm going to do, I've got another friend who I grew up next to. He owns a title company, and he bought his first fourplex 15 years ago. And when he bought that, it was cash flowing negative. So he was having to put, I think, $500 or $600 a month in to keep that afloat. And now he owns 24 units and is set to be able to retire here within the next few years, and his real estate will pay everything for his retirement. So I think it's just great to share, even if we maybe don't have the experience or the knowledge to actually teach a class. I think most of us really do. If we put our mind to it, we can grow into that. But we also will develop relationships with people who are succeeding in a business, and they can be a great source to come in and teach some of those classes. And in addition to that, I had one of my, I've got a mastermind group that I work in, and one of the gals in our group is like a fitness and weight loss coach. So she came in and talked about goal setting and some of those kind of things, how to overcome hurdles and blocks in our goals that we want to accomplish. And had another one come in and talk about decorating and cleaning and organizing and preparing for the holidays. So just finding things like that that create value for our database. Sometimes it's not always completely related to real estate, but that's one thing that I've done to just offer value again, and another touch point, another reason to reach out to people and say, hey, we're having this event, don't know if you'd be interested, but wanted to invite you. And so
if you were to do one on first-time home buyers, would you have maybe like a little?
absolutely, yeah, yeah, typically they will, an agent will partner with a loan officer for first time home buyer type conversation. They'll talk about different programs and grants and what it takes to qualify and how to get your credit in line and how to build credit and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, right here, right here, it's free. So I don't typically, I'm not big enough. My group isn't big enough to meet in this room. There's the small training room next door, and I usually just reserve that a few weeks in advance. And it doesn't cost anything to do that. And so I just invite people to come in and on an evening and do that. Some of the agents have had pretty big seminars in this room, and they've brought in dinner and made a pretty big deal of it, and filled this room with people coming in for those seminars. So yeah. Okay, I think we touched on a lot of the things that you brought up, but there's a lot of good things there. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, Scarlett, tell us a little bit about you. It sounds like you said you're a secret agent. You've struggled to really get out there. Do you have a good database? Do you have a lot of people you know? You're
In my database, but I have not actively pursued talking to them. Here's what's happened so far is that I'll take one step forward in connecting with somebody on Facebook Messenger, okay? But then the conversations are so deep that it's like, ooh, I get like frozen, paralyzed, because there's so much depth and so much energy that goes into these conversations. And it's like, I had scheduled to talk to 10 people, connect with 10 people in a conversation. And I'm like, I've got this big, like, journal with one. And it's like, okay, every time I take a step forward. And obviously, it's a mindset that I need to break this pattern, but I don't know how to be this surface level.
I think you have the opposite problem that I have. A lot of times I feel like I have lots of conversations and I struggle to get to the depth. One of the things that we really want, when we identify someone as a lead, someone who may be interested in transacting or working toward a transaction in real estate, one of the first things we need to do is figure out about their motivation. And so many times, one of my weaknesses has been I jump right to setting an appointment. You know, that I was taught when you get somebody who's a lead, you set the appointment. And so that's kind of been my focus is, oh gosh, okay, so you want to buy a house. Do you want to meet tomorrow or is sometime today better? You know, and
Had I done that, and now that I haven't, it's
so the foundational order of a conversation that we're having in real estate starts with discovering motivation. And usually, Scarlett, we want to try and have the motivation discovery part last about 3 minutes. So we want to ask questions about what they want to accomplish, try and find out what they're looking for, and then we want to say something like, great, let's see what we can do about that. And then you go to what we would call the next step. Anybody you talk to, your goal should be let's figure out how we move this conversation forward. What's the next step that we can take to help them progress toward their goal and accomplishing what their motivation is? So, what's the next step? And in many cases, it's going to be to get together for a meeting, a face to face meeting. That should be our goal with any of these conversations that we have. How do we set a meeting? Um, or is there a reason to set a meeting? One of the classes I was in recently said that the for this instructor, her barometer is if it's a buyer who's planning to transact within the next 3 months, then it's probably a good time to schedule a face-to-face meeting. And if it's a seller that's going to transact within the next 6 months, then that's probably the time frame. Why do you think it would be valuable to meet with a seller earlier than with a buyer? They're already in their home? Yeah. Oh, they're preparing the home. Yes, yes. Uh-huh. Yes.
Like, and with the Aries mortgage, and just to give her, she's a first time buyer, she's my age,
Mm-hmm.
around my age. She's just got this like this goal and this flame, and it's built like it is. She's like, I want to own my own home. I want to do it all by myself. She's a single mom, and so it was good for her and I to meet with Jake with Aries and just sit down with her and give her a starting point, and then give her he has this where he does a soft pull on her credit, and it was pretty bad. And he says, okay, here's a what if scenario. What if you did this, this, and this? You could qualify in 3 months for a home. She was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And so it kind of gives a reality to to all of us, to everyone who wants a dream, their dream. Like if I were to sit down with Jake and he could say, Sarah, what if you did this, this, and this? You could have your ranch in 6 months. And I'd be like, just like that woman. And so it's kind of cool to have this face to face, because that's when it becomes reality. Over the phone and over text, you're like, yeah, this will never happen. But like, she had a plan. I was typing the whole time, and I printed it and gave it to her, and I said, put this in a spot where you can see it every day. And this what if is going to happen. So anyway, I feel like that was a good step for her, and that became a reality. So,
That was huge.
yeah, that was huge.
How did you feel after that?
Like I could solve everyone's problems. I cried. I cried because I know what it's like to be a single mom, and she's a single mom with 5 kids, and she's doing it all on her own.
That's why we do what we do. Yeah.
So just it hits me a little bit different. It hits all of us different depending on what we've been through in life. Because this is the biggest like dream that someone has. It really is. Owning a home or an investment property or a dream home in another state is like everyone's biggest dream. And if you can help them make that dream a reality, you're just like
Yeah.
You're a really important person. And that's what I felt like. I'm like, I'm really important right now. And I haven't closed a deal yet, but it was like my first reality check and her reality check, and everyone's like, oh, we're doing this. That's so cool.
It is. As as we look for ways to create solutions for people to solve problems, like Heather Groom talked about, if we're solving problems for people and creating solutions, they feel that sincerity. That's the skill set that we need to develop, the skill set to listen, to push through. What if you, I don't know where that lead came from, but what if you were on the phone with that person and thought, oh, they're not ready yet. You didn't set the appointment. You didn't take that action. She went and talked to her bank and they said, your credit is terrible. You can't qualify for a loan. She, you made a huge difference. And somebody who didn't look deep enough might have just told her that she can't do it, and she would have been crushed and left in the same spot that she's been in for her entire life up to this point. So we have the ability to make a huge difference. And if we can enter any prospecting session or any, as we get ready to make some of these phone calls and think, whether it's a meditation or a prayer or just our thoughts and the mindset that we have, that we're looking for someone who has a specific need that we can go out and solve today. It's a completely different energy than, I really don't want to reach out to my database today. I don't want to bother people. They're busy. It's pretty tough to make that phone call if that's where our thoughts are. But if we're thinking about what can we do to contribute and bless someone's life, it's actually a really rewarding experience. And we have that ability every day to make that kind of a difference for people. So hopefully that's something that's helpful. So Scarlett, I agree. I think there's maybe a mindset thing here. Your ability to go deep with people is a special talent. Don't don't look at that as something that is hindering you. It's something that we have to control a little bit, but use that as your ability to figure out what their motivation is and then just start thinking about, okay, what's the next step that I can take with this person to help them accomplish their goal?
But what I'm like having a struggle with is, just the initial part of connecting with someone, that it's takes all
Uh-huh.
instead of what you said. And I like this, that you kept it kind of lighter, in that when you connect with someone, you're saying, and I'm just paraphrasing, but that, is it all right with you? I would like to just periodically keep in touch with you. Whereas me, I go in there and I'm like, talk to me, tell me what's been going on, and then I get this big tidal wave back, and I feel like I have to mirror that back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's taking all my energy, and then I just shut down,
Yeah.
because it's like I don't know how to just daintily go through the tulips and go, may I hand you one? Just I don't know how.
Yeah. There's a I think a talent or a skill to create a balance with this. One of the first brokerage that I went to where I was learning to prospect, I was taught there that when we make our first call, the first thing we say is, hi, this is a business call. Do you have a minute? So we're immediately jumping into business, and we ask them who do they know who's planning to buy or sell real estate in the next 7 to 10 days. Pretty abrupt and like right in your face, right? And then at the very end, oh, and by the way, how are you doing? Was kind of the way we were trained to do that. And I feel like that actually hurt my relationship with my database. Most of my database were subcontractors and suppliers and past clients in construction. So I had a lot of people that I knew, but as I reached out to those people, I was talking about real estate. And in the past, my phone calls meant business for them. I was going to buy something from them. And so it was income. And then I start calling about real estate, and many of them didn't have the same interest that I had in real estate. They weren't planning to transact. And, after calling them for 5 years and them saying, we're not planning to move, Trent. We're not interested in investments. I did a poor job of really looking for other ways to bring value, inviting them to events. And that wasn't part of my conversation. And so I feel to some degree like there was an agenda and they felt like we're not in alignment anymore. Trent's not really bringing value to our relationship. And so they quit answering the phone. I don't think any of them, dislike me, but they're just like, it's not, we weren't in alignment and I wasn't doing a good job of bringing value. And so I do think that there's just this balance that we need to strike in being personal and connecting with them and also kind of being business oriented so that it doesn't turn into an hours long conversation. Anybody else have any suggestions for Scarlett, ways to be able to manage that?
Feel you, because I called one of my friends and they're actually selling. And this is a dear friend, and her husband was like my state president for years, and so I called her. And she felt really guilty about something, so she like just, and this was something that was offensive to me, and she was like coming clean with it, and I'm like, oh, it just like hurt my heart. I'm like, this is not how I was expecting this call to go. But it had been weighing on her, and she did something that was not, it was not very kind. And she felt bad about it, and she came clean, and she caught me off guard, and I just had to like breathe, and I just said, I need a minute. I need a minute. And so the whole like conversation got like, oh, yeah. And so this is the problem I have experienced when I'm calling people that I hadn't talked to in like 6 months to 8 months. And then I moved, from American Fork to Cedar Hills, and we were neighbors. And so I just thought, oh, this is hard. If this is what it's going to be like every time, that was like my first phone call I made, and it just got so derailed. So women, I think, struggle with this more than men. Men can be more like straight to the point, but women are like, this has been weighing on my heart, and I have to come clean, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be hard. Like, I don't have time to make even 2 phone calls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? So I don't think I have a suggestion. I think I just feel her because it happened to navigate this.
And sometimes I think we have to be able to have the intuition and the flexibility to say, this is a conversation that I need to have. And if what we're doing really is about relationships and about service and about doing what we need to do to connect with people and meet their needs, in this case, that was a conversation that she needed to have and maybe was the most value that you could create for her. She didn't need to buy a house right now. Well, I guess they're selling. but nonetheless, you created value for her. And that's going to further that relationship. And I just feel like the relationships that's the gold in our business and in life, really. And so I don't know that I have an answer there either. Sometimes maybe there is value in saying, hey, this is a quick business call. I've only got a few minutes, but I wanted to reach out. And maybe that's okay sometimes if we make time for what they really need in another situation when they need it. Does that make sense? Or you might have to say, you know what, I am at work right now and I've kind of got a limited amount of time. It sounds like this is a conversation that does need some additional time and focus. Can I schedule another time to get back on the phone with you? And that's your next step in that relationship. Maybe it's not towards a real estate transaction, but the next step might be, we really need some time together. Let's schedule a time to go to lunch or something like that.
I don't make a lot of the conversations either, and I don't. And like Sarah, it's like you are just emotionally spent, and it's like, how do I go on to the next conversation with somebody else, or how do I reach out to somebody else when I'm drained? I don't know about you. It's just emotionally, mentally, and almost physically draining when you give all your heart. It's like this vessel of hardness. It just goes boom.
Yeah.
I can't get any more.
And I think people from like my past, where I've been through some hard things, they've seen it. They want to go back there and talk to me about it. So I think that's probably the problem, is that people want to take you back there, and it's hard to not go back. Because people have seen how far I've come since that divorce, and I just keep going and I keep going, and they want to take me back because that's where they remember me, because I moved, right then, and they've seen me, in social media, but talking on the phone, they want to go there. So then it's heavy, and it's like I don't want to go back here, and they take me back, and it's like that's what I'm trying to navigate to. It's like the conversation, not controlling it, but just making it not so personal. Not so personal. Without, because we want the relationship, like you're saying. I agree with you. I think she needed that.
Mm-hmm.
I think she felt really guilty about this. And it wasn't like a really, really horrible thing, but it was something I had to really process quickly, because I'm on the phone with her and I'm like, I would never do this. And so you have to I didn't say that, but I'm like, I have really good loyalty to my people, and it just felt like another betrayal. And there's just a lot. There's a lot from a lot of stuff that was really hard to deal with from another person. And so it was just it wasn't her fault. She just kind of got dragged into something, and then she felt really guilty about it. And then I just thought, okay, what would I do in her situation? I had to process it really quick because I'm on the phone with her, and she was crying, and her husband's like bringing her tissues. I can hear him in the background, and I'm like, hi, Scott. Like, I know him really, really well. I worked with him for years and years.
Yeah.
That's what I did. So I felt really bad for her, and I feel like you're right. It was what she needed, and she felt really guilty about something. And then we worked through it, and I said, you know what? And by the end of the conversation, I'm like, I love you, and I don't know if I can see why you did what you did, and it's okay. It's okay. So I got off the phone. It was heavy, and I cried. But I think that's life. Life is about working through the good and the bad. It's not always going to be these easy conversations or these slam dunks where people are, have the best credit and they have all this. It's helping people work through their stuff, and sometimes I can deal with that, and sometimes need extra help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I think about that conversation, you'll have maybe an opportunity on the next phone call to kind of create a little bit of maybe a different expectation about how that relationship and future phone calls might go. And it might be that next phone call might be, hey, this is actually a business call. Do you have a minute today? I'm really glad that we had that last conversation. And I want to stay in touch with you. I want to maintain our relationship. I want to continue to move forward. And I'm also working on a business. And so if it's okay, can we talk a little bit about what I'm doing in business? And I really don't want it to change our relationship, but I do want you to know that I'd love to work with you or any of your relationships. And so again, kind of just having this authentic conversation, like I'm going to try and make it a point to reach out to you several times a year and get their permission for that kind of relationship and interaction. I think it just makes it a lot easier if we've had that conversation, so that we kind of got this understanding of what this maybe next chapter of our relationship might look like, or this portion of our relationship. Does that make sense? Okay.
And also, if I could ask him, your mail, so I don't know.
Maybe it doesn't count.
I haven't been in prior to now, really, and being a single woman, or even being a married woman, and reaching out to male friends, maybe I'm just weird, but I don't know if any of you struggle with, like, okay, I don't want them thinking that I'm interested or help me here, please, somebody.
I, 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 I can follow what you're saying. One thing that I've heard to do for lead generating calls is to say, when you call them, hi Joe, how are you doing? I have some really exciting news I want to share with you. But first, how's it going? So that way you're kind of laying the foundation that you're not calling, to try to get a date or something, but you're calling to share your exciting news. But you do want to know because he's your friend or someone you worked with in the past or something. How's it going? So and that could even work for some of these calls that you get so deep into, or that they put so much on you. And the other thing I thought of while you were talking, I've never done this. I don't even know what anyone would think of this, but maybe set yourself a timer, and after they've gone on for whatever, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you have to mentally switch. You have to tell yourself, okay, I got to get this conversation out of the personal and get to what I can share. Because people can do that. People can really lay a lot of stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
No, that
good
was
or not, but
that was excellent. And my other thing, I think Sarah has same problem. But it's just knowing how to say, okay, I gotta go. I don't know how.
Well, I have that same problem. Now that you're in real estate, perhaps you have a job. You have another appointment for me to call. So now it's easy. It could be easy maybe to say, I wish we could talk more, but I have another appointment.
Yeah, an appointment.
Your appointment is your phone call. You plan to do those 10 for that day or whatever it was. You have a job, right? You haven't. Sounds like this is new, like for me too. I've had that issue. But that appointment could be anything. It's an appointment. So just tell them you have an appointment. You've got to get to in a few minutes. You wish you could talk more.
I love that.
And I think one thing that's helpful too, Scarlett, I've had to, because I'm really sensitive to this too, because of things I've been through. I'm really sensitive to women who are married, and if I have to work with their husbands, I make sure I put them on the text. If it's a text, if it's a phone call, I don't do phone calls. They're married men. That's just me. Yeah, that's just me because I respect marriage. It wasn't respected so much when I was married, but I respected enough to respect marriage and respect that woman. And so, like, I worked in a position in the LDS church where I was over all the communications and the graphic design and marketing for the entire state. And I worked with every single male auxiliary leader, which there were 12, plus all the members of the state presidency. And so every time I communicated with them, I went on the church to LDS tools and added their wife to the text. And so that just made me, because I never wanted to give anyone the wrong impression. And I've learned, you probably have had this, where you could give people the wrong impression because you're very beautiful and you're very like loving and social. So that's the way I've dealt with that. It's just like putting their wife on the text. If it's, yeah, we live in a world where we can communicate through like social media and, but if I'm doing something where I have to work with them a lot, I'm just adding their wife because I'm single and I just don't ever want there to be any type of a like I don't want that to be misconstrued.
Yeah, good points.
Maybe I'm extreme about
It's yeah, it's challenging, and I do think it in my efforts with prospecting calls, past clients or something like that. sometimes when I have made calls to women, it has been more of just straight to business. I kind of stay away from the personal stuff because of yeah, it's tough to allow yourself to go there. And so that, yeah, I guess I'm just kind of thinking back at some of those conversations, and I think I have typically just made it pretty quick, you know, hey, just wanted to reach out and see if you guys need anything, that kind of conversation instead of, um, hey, how's it going? And, you know, what are you guys up to? That kind of thing. So I think you do have to be careful about that. But I don't know that well, I guess I haven't specifically avoided those phone calls, but I do keep it business. So, okay. Janet, you're in a different situation. Let's talk a little bit about what are some of your ideas for lead generating and feeding your business? Okay, love that.
And after that, I think door knocking or going to like taking a class, like I want to learn to sew. I don't know how to sew, and I took a sewing class. I saw there was a bird watching class or whatever they call them. I'm just so a class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. That's so they talk about. I listened to Sirhan. I don't know if you've ever sell it like Sirhan.
I haven't. Mm-mm.
Okay. And they talk a lot about, you can meet people in line at Starbucks or wherever. And even one of the things at 75, we were talking about at the
Yes.
meeting says add 2 new contacts to your database a day.
Yeah.
It's like, how? So that came up in our class yesterday or Wednesday. And I said, okay, so you're at Starbucks. You're purposely, by yourself and you're looking for someone that you can kind of start to talk to. What do you say? How do you go from, oh, it's so beautiful out today to, can I get your email and phone number? And Cameron said, you can say to them, what do you do for work? Like, after you start talking with them a little bit, you can say something like that. And then so the natural response is, what do you do?
Exactly.
And then you say, I'm a real estate agent. And hopefully they'll ask you, how's the market? Because it's true, most people are interested in real estate. Either a homeowner that my house going up, or they're a buyer, or they're wanting a buy somebody who wants to buy them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Okay,
like
let's talk a little bit about that, and I think this will be something that'll be good for you as well. As we, I think those of us who have a large network of people that we already know and have relationships with, that's our gold mine. There's a lot of value there, and we've talked about some really good things about creating value for them, and I feel like that's an important skill to work on. And as we build our database, maybe we don't have much, but as we build that, we need to really nurture that database and those relationships and continue to feed that so that they'll produce for us for a long time, and in personal relationships as well as in business relationships. So a couple things come to mind that I think would be good to talk about. First of all, you talked a little bit about open houses. And I kind of want to come back to one. I had an open house, I guess it was last Saturday. And one of the other agents in the office, I invited somebody else in the office to run the open house with me. And I was thinking I might not be there, but I decided I should be because I felt like my clients would appreciate that. So I was there at the open house. And he's a fairly young agent. And it was interesting for me to watch. He did a lot of things that were really good. But one of the things that I learned that was kind of just stark to me was as soon as someone came through the door, it was like the first question he asked was, are you working with an agent? Which I think is okay, but it was very obvious that his intent was to capture a client. He wanted somebody to work with. And so there weren't a lot of questions about, so what brought you into this house? What attracted you to this house? What are you looking for? What's important to you? It was about, do you have an agent and would you be open to having me represent you? And I just felt like a lot of people, I could just see a lot of people saying, okay, you're a salesman and let us just walk through the house. And so it kind of created this distance. And so I think it's important for us in any conversation at open houses or wherever we are, again, to go back to that motivation. What's important to you? What are you trying to accomplish? What brought you here today? Why did you go to our website? And so some of those initial questions, again, we want to spend like at least 3 minutes just finding out what their motivation is, what's important to them. And that helps us to be able to start to find a way to solve problems and create solutions for people, if that makes sense. So that was one of the sidetracks I wanted to go on. But open houses are great. Um, if you're going to do an open house, I highly suggest that you go out and knock doors ahead of time. Um, I usually take a flyer with me and I leave it on the doorstep, whether somebody answers the door or not. But it's one of the least confrontational contacts that you can have. Almost everybody wants to know what's going on in their neighborhood, and they don't look at you as a salesperson really. You're just letting them know that there's an open house. And I like to make it a little bit fun. I say, if you know someone who may be interested in moving into the neighborhood, please send them by. You're welcome to stop by and check out the house. Maybe you haven't had a chance to see inside this house, and it's your chance to be a little bit curious if you want to. And maybe you can choose your own neighbor. And so it's just something that's kind of a fun contact. And I would maximize that. If you get an opportunity to do an open house, maximize that opportunity to go out and talk to neighbors in the area and invite them in. And that's a great way to contact or ask people. If you start a conversation and someone's open to talking to you, you can ask a question. Another one that would be good to write down is something like, aside from where you live currently, where else would you choose to live? Because a lot of people say, oh no, we're not planning to move. There's no plan to do anything different here, which is fine. But most of us have a dream about owning a ranch or having a vacation property or having a smaller home or a bigger home, so most of us have some dream in our mind that we're not quick to share with somebody. But if you ask an open-ended question like that, you might get them to open up a little bit about what some of their thoughts and dreams are. Yeah.
Then what do you say?
Well, you listen to them. A lot of times they'll come back and say, eventually we'd like to downsize. We'd like to get into something that's not multiple level. And then you start to ask questions again about them. Oh gosh, it sounds like that's something that is in your future. Tell me, how's that impacting you at this point? Oh gosh, we really need to have a knee replacement done, and I don't know how we're going to be able to deal with that. Or maybe your question is, gosh, that sounds like a fantastic dream. What's preventing you from doing that now? And they might say, well, we've got a child that's still in school, but when our last one graduates from high school, we're planning to make that move. So now you've got some really great information to be able to say, okay, let's stay in touch and see what we can do to help you there. Another good question to ask people is, especially in your database, when you're letting them know that you're a real estate agent, you might just ask a question like, do you have someone in that you would go to? Do you already have someone that you would go to with if you had a question about real estate? Or one of my coaches taught me, I'm trying to remember exactly how this conversation went, but she said something like, I think she just affirmed, that I would do everything to take care of you and make sure that if we were working together, that I would do everything to make sure that we get exactly what you're looking for and take the very best care of you, right? And I'm sure you're confident that I would do that for anybody that you would refer to me as well. So, if there's an opportunity, it would be an honor for me to be able to serve anybody that you care about and helping them to accomplish their real estate goals or something like that. So again, just kind of going back on that relationship that you already have and talking about the trust and confidence that it can have. Let's come back to, for you, Janet. Ideas for generating leads when we don't have much of a database or when we're trying to add to our database. Door knocking, we've talked about. Open houses um, are a good way. I've made it a point to call for sale by owners and expired listings. I call them every day. They're not the easiest phone calls to make. But for someone who's looking for now business, somebody who's ready to transact now, both of those categories are somebody who are actively selling right now and they just don't think they need a real estate agent, or there's someone who's tried a real estate agent and failed and and obviously had a need to sell. And so those are great contacts to make, and in many cases can translate into business right away. It's a specific skill set to develop there. And if we have time and you guys want to, I'd be happy to even make some phone calls here with you today. I'd be happy to dial and you could listen into how those conversations go. But I call them every day, and they're a small portion of my business. Probably less than 10% of my business comes from those leads. But when it's, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 deals a year that comes from those, they become a part of my database. And many of my most productive clients have been people that I found as a for sale by owner or an expired listing, and they've translated into dozens of transactions. So there's a lot of value. I think a lot of us get stuck in our database and think, I've got a lot of people that I know, and I don't really need to reach out to people that I don't know. But there's a lot of value in growing your database with people that you don't know. And it's a great way to continue to revitalize your business and continue to grow and expand. And so I do think that whether even just door knocking, if it's not related to open house, is another way to do that. One thing that I think would be valuable in talking about too is the idea of joining a team. Are any of you on a team? Okay.
They have a rule that you can't join a team until you sell four.
Oh, yes. I okay.
They
This is something that I'm just learning. I don't know. You have to go through Ignite in order to join a team. Huh.
Yeah,
The productivity team. What if, I wonder, it seems like teams can recruit their own agents, but they probably don't run them through Ignite. And they have their own training program for their own agents, probably. Maybe that's how that works. But anyway, I think that there is value in being on a team. And I've never been on one. And so I'm kind of just observing from the outside. But in a lot of cases, those who don't have a database might benefit by being on a team who generates leads, who has the funding to be able to pay for internet ads and things like that. A lot of times they have an inside sales agents that will set appointments for team members. So it's an option. I'm over the solo agent committee, so kind of a proud solo agent. But I'm over the solo agent committee, and one of the conversations that we had with the solo agents last month was to have Peter Morkel and Josh on his team come in and talk about what it takes to build a team and create that kind of environment, or what the benefits are to being on a team, just so that solo agents could kind of evaluate their options there. And there were a lot of compelling things there. In fact, the guy that introduced me to Westfield uh, was a super successful agent, had his own team at one point, and when he introduced me to Westfield, he was working on the Red Sign team. And since then, he's actually left our brokerage and he's in Shoney's role in the St. George office. So a high producer, very capable agent, but he found that there was more value in being on a team than being solo. And so I wouldn't discount that as an option if you find that there's the right kind of value there to help you get where you want to with your business.
How many houses do you think you knock on when you do or have done open houses?
So in this most recent listing that I had, I've done two open houses. One I did by myself and the other I did with the other agent here. And in both cases, I printed off 25 flyers and went out for a couple of hours and just handed out 25 flyers. So I could probably do that again in that same neighborhood another couple times for some more open houses, but we'll go under contract today, so that probably won't happen. So,
What about when a house sells?
mhm.
Okay, so here in California, you can say, I'll let you know that this house sold for 500,000. But here's your check here.
It's not true.
See,
At least as far as I know, that's not true. This is a I think you might be referring to the fact that this is a non-disclosure state. And that means that they're not going to publish the price that your home sold. It's not public knowledge, but that doesn't mean that you can't go out and tell neighbors. In fact, that's one of the most successful things that we can do is come up with some sound bites. When you call somebody a lead and you leave a message, especially for sale by owner or expired or something like that, you want to leave something about who you are and the kind of success that you create. And so one of the best kind of contacts that you can make in a neighborhood is, hey, we've just listed a home down the street. Wanted to let you know that that's on the market and we've got it listed at this price. It's got this many bedrooms and this many bathrooms. And I wanted to know who you know that might like to move into the neighborhood. So that's a great contact to make on the phone, in person, however you decide to do that. It's called a just listed call. The other is a just sold call. And um, that would be uh, something that you could do in the neighborhood as well. Hey, just wanted to let you know we sold this home. It actually sold in 5 days and it was $5,000 above asking price, or we had 15 offers come in, or we had 2 offers come in. Something that says we came into your neighborhood and someone had a goal and we helped them accomplish that. It's a great conversation to have and a great way to grow your database. And you could do that with other people's listings.
like to say your list and sold, and you don't want to go out and do that. So, but I would definitely, and it would probably just be good work practice. Get your permission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But that's a great conversation to have. And you don't have to say, you don't necessarily have to say it wasn't me. You could say, our brokerage had a home listed for sale in your neighborhood, and we were able to get that sold in just a couple of weeks. Sometimes people feel like the message has to be, I'm great. But sometimes the message just needs to be, the market is actually better than you think. We've heard that the market's down. We're trending up now. And this is great news. People need to know that. And so I remember, I mean, I started in the business in 2008. And so the market was just recovering from a pretty bad time. And I remember going out door knocking in a neighborhood as a pretty new agent and just talking to people and saying, hey, home values are actually starting to come back up. A home just down the street sold for such and such a price. People were of this mindset that they couldn't sell, that they were stuck. And I was delivering good news. It's getting to a point where you might start to be able to make your move that you've been thinking about. And so that's a good way to approach things. Just listed, just sold calls. Those are good phone calls and good door knocking.
How do you get a list of phone numbers?
Okay.
And then how do you know who's on the do not call list? You learn a lot about that in real estate school. So.
Yes, especially associated with Keller Williams. Keller Williams was in a lawsuit and paid a lot of money because of the do not call list. And it's a lot bigger deal here than it was. In fact, until I came here, I called everybody. I didn't exclude people on the do not call list. So for 10 plus years, 15 years, I called everybody. And coming here, you sign an agreement that says that you're not going to call people on the do not call list. So I don't call them anymore. Unless it's someone who has inquired. If it's someone who's reached out to you and inquired about a listing, I don't even look to see if they're on the do not call list. They've inquired and opted in really to that conversation, if that makes sense. So when I call for sale by owners or expireds, or if I look for phone numbers in a neighborhood, I pay for a service that does that. And those services will earmark things that are on, or people that are on the do not call list. So it's part of their service. So there's a company called RedX. There are a lot of companies out there. There's a company called RedX here in Orem. They're based here in Orem, and they offer, okay, let me think about all the products they have for sale by owners and expireds. They have something that they call a neighborhood search, which will let you just pick a radius or a certain area. You could just pick the neighborhood and it will look up all the phone numbers and names of everybody that lives in that neighborhood. They'll give you for rent by owner ads. So those are investors that are looking for renters to come into their properties. They'll give you, what's the other one? Oh, the pre-foreclosure list. So anybody who's in pre-foreclosure kind of situation, that list in my experience hasn't been great in our area. And I stopped subscribing to that one because it wasn't giving me updated information. But I've called a lot of for rent by owners. Those are investors, people who actively are involved in real estate. And so I found that that's been a decent list for me too. I really like to work on my database of investors. They're people who are active and in many cases have been sources of multiple transactions for me. So that's been a good one for me as well. Yeah, that's true. They have their pros and cons. A lot of investors are not very loyal. A lot of them have unrealistic expectations about what they want to buy. A lot of them talk a lot and don't do anything. So you have to be careful with any category. You're going to find some pros and cons, and you just have to figure out how to work that niche in your business. Paula, we haven't heard much from you. What questions have come up for you? What are some of your thoughts about how you're going to feed your business? Mm-hmm.
Or the way I have fun, like a couple people is like family friends and people that know me that they ran into do like, oh, how are you doing for the family? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. I just got my license in real estate, and then they start asking about that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, whenever you like be on time, just let me know. We'll set up a meeting or anything.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. It's good to leverage relationships, and you might find that um, it would be good to reach out to some of your parents or friends' parents and see what some of their interests are. It's a challenge when you're young. Clay Winder, you probably don't know who Clay is. Clay is one of the owners of the Red Sign team, which is the largest team in our brokerage. And he's a little younger than I am, but started about the same time that I did. And he was your age at that time, or very close to that. He started very young. And he talks about how when he first got into the business, none of his friends were buying real estate. They just weren't in a situation where they were of that age. And so it was a tough road for him, I think, at the beginning. And um, if you get a chance to listen to him present, he typically, so far in my experience, a couple times a year, he'll teach a class called Win with Sellers. And it's all about taking listings, learning how to be a listing agent. And that's a skill that I would recommend to anybody to improve on. He teaches a really good class there, but he talks a little bit about his early days in the business and the things that he had to learn. And um, that's I think you're right. It's a challenge, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. You've got a different skill set than a lot of us do because of your age and the resources that you've grown up with. And so I think there are a lot of good things there. It does seem like a lot of young agents gravitate to teams a little bit more than people who have a database. So that might be something to consider. But I'm just trying to think. You a lot of what you'll have to do is to reach outside of people that you already know, and some of the same things we're talking about with Janet, right? Reaching out to whether it's door knocking or open houses or um, finding a relationship with an agent in the office that has a lot of business and maybe you can be a buyer's agent for them. A lot of young agents, I think, will start out as a buyer's agent and handle those transactions for a team or something like that. So it's one of the great things about real estate is there are a lot of ways to diversify and kind of create your own niche and your own way to success. And there are a lot of great things that you can do that way here. Any questions that you have specifically about lead generation? Okay. I want to make sure that this is valuable for you. Do you speak Spanish? Okay. There's a niche there too.
Oh, she got her license, like, just in case you ever want to
Yeah.
try anything. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, like, I'm really stupid. So a lot of the people I've talked to always speak Spanish.
Yeah. The Hispanic community is there are a lot of challenges that they deal with in order to be able to succeed and buy a home. So there are a lot of Hispanic people that struggle to be able to buy a home, but they're so resourceful and so willing to dig and find ways to do things, even though they're difficult and hard to do. Some of the most successful investors that I know are Hispanic people that have just slowly over time bought properties and many times they're willing to house hack. All of you know what house hacking is. you know a lot of times they're willing to house hack and they'll rent rooms or share with family members and they find ways to make it happen. And more I'm finding Hispanic people showing up to my open houses. In fact, I just met with a Hispanic couple last night, and they've been here for 25 years. They're well established. They're business owners, and they own real estate, but they're still that they don't really know what the real estate process looks like. They don't know how to make decisions to be able to make their next purchase. And so anyway, I think there's a great opportunity there to pair yourself with a really resourceful Hispanic lender and find solutions for people. I think you've got a huge opportunity to serve that community, and they need it. They want it. They realize there's value in home ownership, and there's a great opportunity there. So, okay, Sarah.
I feel like in some areas I kind of jumped in and gone full speed with. Like, I branded a magazine and I sent that out to my top 50 SOI. So they all got that at the end of last month. So that was cool.
How was the response?
Not as great as I expected, but like people have said, reached out and said they got it. And then I put it on social media like a week after, and then people were like, I got it. It's so amazing. So
it's the follow-up, right? That helps too.
So my approach is like indirect,
Mm-hmm.
very indirect. Like, I'll do the magazine, I'll do the social media, I'll do this, but I struggle with like putting myself out there fully and like making the calls or getting, showing up and setting these appointments, in-person appointments. But so the magazine I thought was a good introduction, or just a good way to get in there and let my people know I'm serious, my top 50. And then from there, it's just been like really going hard with social media and doing, and that isn't creating some like leads yet. I know that takes time, but I've been collaborating with other agents and Kylie, if you guys know Kylie, she's just really intelligent, younger girl, young mom, well, I mean, she's like in her 30s, so she's younger. Calling, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, but so she like has this corporate background. She came from the corporate world, so she's really quick with things and databases, and so we've collaborated in a few things with like making a reel together, trying to promote a home that is on the market from someone in the brokerage. They're selling it, and they're of course sell by owner, but he's an agent. So I don't even know what that's called. Is that called for sale by owner?
Yeah. Owner agent, whatever.
Owner agent.
Yeah.
So he's selling it. He's a new agent too. Steve. He's only been here a few times to like at night. But he's selling this really beautiful home in Woodland Hills. And so Kylie and I went there and we were like, did this little you're on type of thing. I'm selling the home. She's like, no, I'm selling the home. So we collaborated that way. And that has got thousands of views.
Oh my. I love that.
So that's
Kind of this
another,
competition thing.
and it's competition because I'm like talking.
Uh-huh.
So we posted at the same time my reel and her reel, and then we did a collaboration with one reel. Like, and when you do a collaboration on social media, it'll tag all those person's friends, and
Yeah.
it's like tagging, but it's different. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's just a way for us to get our name out. Like, oh, they're funny. Like, I don't know. We thought we were funny. And I don't know if we really were, but I'm like doing a tour through the home, and then she's doing a tour through the home, and then we bump into each other, and we're like, what are you doing here? And so people are watching this reel thinking we're serious. Like, they're going to get into a fight. And then we're like, game on, may the best agent win. And just like, then we like tour through the home. I'm like running, I'm jumping, I'm turning. And then it's just all fast motion. And then, so that was kind of a cool thing. Like, if we can, collaborate with other agents, I think that's a good opportunity. But the best thing I have found for like my lead generation is doing open houses. That's how I was able to get this buyer. And she just came in, she followed my signs. She didn't see it online anywhere. She's like, I was just out. I was having a hard morning and I saw your signs and I just followed them. And she's like, and it was like a spiritual thing. Like, I could feel it too. Like, she had been told no like many times. Like we said, like you were saying, you're not going to be able to buy a home. And the last agent that she was working with, he's like, no, sorry, I can't help you, you know. And so I was just like, I'm this new agent, so I've got a little more like, I'm gonna do this. And so she came in. There were 3 other people that came in, and I have a sign up sheet that says, "Are you working with an agent?" And everyone checked no. So all those people I've been working with, and then the next open house I did was a week later. I got a few other leads from that. Most people came with agents actually that time, but then the few that didn't, I've been working with, and then I'm trying to do more open houses once a week. That's like my goal. So then I have one on Saturday. So that's been my best source.
What is your form? You share your form that you sent up?
Yeah.
Because I haven't had much luck with open houses. I've done a few, but everyone's working with an agent. And
A lot of them are.
Either that or they're just like, they're not interested in buying. They're just.
Yeah. A lot of them are. A lot of them are working with agents. A lot of them are curious and not really seriously interested, but you just have to weed through those. It's the same with internet leads, and it's the same with expired listings, and it's everybody. You're going to have to filter through those that maybe aren't interested. And I think a lot of times they say they're not interested, but there is an interest there, and so it's not always the case. But a lot of times, if you can get under the surface and start to create a relationship there, you'll find that there is some interest that they have there. So one of the things that I've done at open houses just recently that's been effective for me is I haven't had a feedback form at the house. I've asked them, I've said the seller has asked me if I would email you a feedback form so that they can get feedback afterwards. Will you please fill out your name and email information? So I've got a sign-in sheet, and then I use a Google form that my wife created. It's really cute. But a Google form that we send out, and it has questions on there about what they thought about the home. Are they working with an agent? Are they interested in investment? Just some questions like that. Would they like information about what's happening in the market? Would they like a market analysis sent to them periodically for their home? So just some of those kind of things where I get an opportunity for a value and I can add them to my database. You know, these people have given me their number, so I don't care if they're on the do not call list. And I just want to create value for them and work on adding them to my database. And so that's been something that worked out pretty well for me. I think we've probably had 80 or 90% of the people that have been willing to leave their name and phone number when they've come through showings. So
I was, oh, sorry.
Then you're not asking for very
No.
much information at the beginning.
right. Exactly. Really, I want their contact information. The truth is, I haven't had one person fill out my cute form. Nobody's responded, but they've filled out their information. So I have their contact information, which has allowed me to follow back up with them, find out if they were interested in this home, ask them, okay, so you're not interested in that home. Tell me what you are looking for. I'd be happy to keep an eye open keep an eye open for you. So it just kind of, a lot of times I try to make that initial conversation not about, hey, I want to represent you. Do you have an agent? Can I be your agent kind of thing? It's more about, what are you looking for? You know, I talk with a lot of buyers and sellers. I'm active in the market. I'd be happy to keep an eye open for you. So I think that's just, for me, it's been a more successful approach. Just something that's not about, I want you to commit to me and I'm going to be committed to you and let's be friends. You know, it's more about, what are your needs? What are your needs? I just want to help you with your needs, and whether we have an official relationship or not, we can work on creating value for someone and hopefully turn that into a relationship that is, transaction.
At my last house we did, there was this really cute family that came through, and their older daughter was translating for her parents.
Mm-hmm.
She was
Mm-hmm.
and they loved the home in Provo. And I'm actually doing this home again tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
this same home, because the seller wouldn't take 5,000 less than what they were asking, so they didn't even counter. They rejected it. And Cody from the Red Sign is doing this one, so
Mm-hmm.
I've been following up on it. I'm really invested. I'm like, I'll do another open house for you. But this family came through. It's in a really good location in Provo, but the house is only 440. And this family was like, we love it. We saw it. And the girl was telling me, we saw it on, yeah. Well, I think it was, UtahRealEstate.com. And then she said, we love it. Are there other homes like this that you can show us today? And I said, yes, I can. So I was going to let Ivan, who's a new agent, he was actually there with me also. And I'm like, hey, does he speak Spanish? I'm like, do you want to go take this family around? Because I need to get home to my family. And he's like, I don't have a Supra key. So I texted them. I'm like, we won't be able to meet with you until, next week. And by Monday, they had already signed with an agent. Oh. Like they were ready to go and they had already signed. So yeah. I was just thinking, I told, I said, hey, can you follow up with this family on Monday? And he's like, they've already signed with another agent. So I was like, you never know. You miss those opportunities when you don't, when you don't go on their terms. Like I wasn't able to go.
Yeah.
After the house.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're going to have to get partners to sell it. I guess the thing is getting them to sign. Yeah. With you, so do you take the form to the open house? I mean, I don't know how to.
As far as the buyer agency form, yeah, I wouldn't have one that I would take to an open house like that. But yeah.
What would you do if by chance that you were able to go show other homes right away? don't you have to have that fire broker, exclusive fire broker agreement signed?
Not yet.
I thought I thought
It's August. It's August, but I'll tell you, I'm being recorded. I'm going to say I'm going to say it the way I see it anyway. I would have a very direct conversation with them about agency. And if I don't have the form right there, I'm not going to let that get in the way of meeting their needs if they have an immediate need. But I would have a very direct conversation about agency, explain how it works, explain what the fee is, explain, all the things that go with agency. And then I would take them out and work with them and say, listen, if we decide that we want to work together, and I'd love to work with you if this is a good fit, um, just understand that we need to get back to signing a form that says that we're working together and that I'm representing you and that we're agreeing that there's an agency relationship here. And I would just say this is nationwide. It's required legally, and so it's just part of working with an agent. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to work with you. And if this is something we all agree to, let's do it. I'd go out and show them houses, and then I'd send them the form later that evening. I wouldn't let that get in the way of an immediate need there.
Like Janet was saying, don't we need like at least a 24-hour notice to get it?
No, some are going to have restrictions like that. On my listing, I think I've got a 30-minute requirement. And so when I meet with a seller, one of the things I explain to them is that one of their jobs, one of them is to price their home right. Another of them is to make sure that their home is ready to sell. And another is that it's available. That's one of their jobs, is to make their home available. And we can work around their limitations. If somebody is at home sleeping during the day, we can limit showings, but that hurts their ability to get their home sold, or my ability to help them sell their home. And it's a conscious decision that we have to make together about availability. So 24 hours is typically a requirement for a rental situation because that's usually written into their contracts. But in my experience, if it's not a renter in the home, it's usually not a 24-hour requirement. So
Where did you find that? I haven't gotten that far.
the 24-hour requirement. Sometimes they'll have restrictions listed in the agent remarks that say we're only allowing showings on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, or something like that, because and again, this is, if that's my listing, I'm going to have a conversation with that client. This is going to hurt you. We can do this, but it's going to hurt you if you limit your showings. But some of them will, and so that may show up in the remarks, or it might be when you click the button that says I want to schedule a showing through the showing service. They'll have their limitations in there, and so they'll have certain days blocked off, and you won't be able to schedule a showing on those days. Yeah, I don't know how to do it. Let me see if I could do it on your computer. This isn't mine, and that's why I don't know how to. But yeah, I can show you on my tablet. Um, we're super close to being out of time, and I did this. You were here at my last class. I did this completely different this time. Was it better this time?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever been so unstructured. I think we have, yeah.
Elaborate on this level.
I think we've all got unique mindset issues that we're working through, and unique, I guess, resources that are available to us, talents. We're different. And so one of the things that I really love about what happens here at Keller Williams is there are so many different ways of doing this business. And the very top producers in our office are very unique and different. Becca Summers does not make phone calls. She will not make phone calls. And she is incredibly successful. She's found a way to take social media and completely master that game. And I mean, she's systematic about it. Like she says, this year I'm going to learn to do Facebook, and this year it's going to be whatever it is. And so she's taken 1 year at a time and mastered different. And I'm not saying that that's what I would recommend, but it's worked tremendously well for her. So there are many, many different ways that we can do this business. And I think as we wrap things up, I made a note of a few things that I kind of wanted to make sure that I hit on. And one of them is I would highly recommend that you block out and protect your lead generation appointment with yourself every day. If we have things that get in the way of that, and teaching this class is got in the way of my prospecting time today, but that means you just have to reschedule it for another time in the day if you've got a conflict there. But I think it's so easy to say that's not my favorite activity, or gosh, I'd lots rather go do this than that. I'd rather sit in a class than make phone calls. And so a lot of times it's easy to let that go. And one of the best habits I think we can create is to say, this is my job, and that I need to show up and do that every day. And whether it's messaging people, I would recommend that we overcome our our limiting mindsets that would prevent us from talking to people. Face-to-face conversation is fantastic, and let's try and set appointments and get in front of people and have an opportunity to help them accomplish their goals. I love what you did, Sarah, with meeting with that loan officer, and you're going to make a huge difference in that woman's life. And that's why we do this. It's so rewarding when we get to make a difference for people and help them change their lives. So set an appointment and get good at guarding that and protecting that. Another thing we didn't really talk a lot about is start to keep track of your production. Keep track of how many dials you have in a day, how many contacts you have in a day, and when you set an appointment. Like, create a spreadsheet or something so that you can keep track of this, because as you move along and you start to create a history, I can look at things and I can say, when I call my SOI or my database, I'm going to make 10 dials and I'm going to contact 7 of those, because I know what my track record is, and I'm going to set an appointment with 1 out of 10 people in that group. And when I'm calling for sale by owners, I'm going to make this many dials and get this many contacts. And so I start to recognize patterns, and I can also start to see what my conversion rates are. So I can say, I have to make 30 contacts in a day in order to set 1 appointment. And I have to set 5 appointments in order to go on 2 appointments. So I start to know what my ratios are. Those are my conversion ratios. And I can say, gosh, I need to get better at pre-qualifying people when I set an appointment so that I convert more of those. I'm going on 80% of those instead of 40% or something like that. So you can start to identify portions of your business that you can improve if you keep track of those numbers, like any professional athlete or team would do. And so I would highly recommend that you make that a practice. And even I would gamify that. If any of you listened to Cameron when he talked a couple weeks ago, he talked about how he has a jar full of marbles, a jar full of 50 marbles, and he fills his jar with marbles. I don't know if, I think that was once a week. I don't remember, but he's trying to make a certain number of dials or contacts in a day, and he just moves marbles into a jar, and that's how he keeps track of what he does. So just something simple like that. I've given myself a point system. I get a certain number of points. I get 1 point if I make a contact. I get 5 points if it's somebody in my database. And I get a certain number of points if I set an appointment. I get another certain number of points if I go on an appointment, another certain number of points if I sign a contract. And so I've created a point system. And so I can get to the end of the week and say, gosh, this was a 68% week based on my goals. And so I can kind of track and say, this is how I performed on my point system. And I can determine the effectiveness of my efforts that week. So those are some ideas that I have. Any other questions as we wrap things up? Okay.
This is so wonderful. This is more intimate than most of them in that I loved how you were asking information from everybody, and it's so helpful.
I'm glad it worked out. I was kind of nervous about it. I'm like, I hope this works. I'm glad it worked out. So good. Yeah, I'd be happy. Have you got the MLS pulled up, or do you want me to pull it up on my? Okay.
So, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. It just went to this. Oh, it's over here.
It's
okay.
okay. Yeah.
So there's the
So go to a listing.
Okay. So property lists or
Look up my listing.
okay. I don't have one. So do I just search
So
by the
you're
MLS?
on active. If you
Yep.
were to scroll down, is there a field for address?
Oh yeah, that's at the yeah, search address.
Search address. Okay, just put in a 35 South, 800 West.
Oh, and then
Yep.
okay.
So
Right.
if you scroll down to the bottom of that listing, you're going to say that you want to schedule a showing. The blue, it's a blue bar at the bottom that says you want to schedule a showing. So this goes into the showing service and it pulls up this listing and you get to select the date. So say you want to show it tomorrow.
And then just hit next.
Hit next. And then it brings you to this screen and you just select the time that you want to request your showing.
I did not know how to do it.
No, me either. This is good stuff. Okay.
So you just select the time that you want, and then you can select how long that you want your showing to be. So if I'm out showing 3 or 4 homes to a buyer, I don't know exactly how long they're going to take to get through a showing and exactly what my drive time is. So I try to guess what the drive time is going to be, and I try to schedule like an hour block for each house.
It's amazing.
Yeah, gives me a little bit of flexibility.
You always do 60 minutes for your show.
For the most part, yeah. Yeah, I typically will schedule like a 60-minute window to do the showing. And then you just click next after that's done. The agent and typically the sellers, depending on how they've set up what their communication is, it'll send a notice out to them. And you'll get a notice in your text that says that you've requested this showing and you're waiting for approval. So it'll go out to the sellers and the agent, and one of them will click and approve the showing, and then you'll get a notice that it's been approved.
I did not know this. And I just want you to know, if you guys open doors for other agents, they do anything less than this. I had one agent and he scheduled every house, and there were 6 houses, and we were all over South Salt Lake. He did it in 15-minute intervals. And I'm like, how am I supposed to show a house and be at the next location in 15 minutes? It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It took like almost 3.5 hours, and he had, an hour and a half set up.
When there are and this is just personal pet peeves a little bit. Some agents will set up this showing service and they won't put their phone number in there. And so as a listing agent, I get a showing request from an agent who doesn't have their phone number in there, which means I've got to go to the MLS and look up their number in order to call them and talk to them. As a listing agent, I want to be proactive and talk to that agent. I want to find out what their buyers are looking for, what's important to them. I want to try and be proactive and answer those questions so that they've got all the information that's important to them when they show up to that showing. And so put your information in there when you do set that up. I think it's good for us to be able to communicate with one another. And then as you're out showing, a lot of times we do get behind. Something happens and it's just good to communicate with that showing agent. I had a showing last night that they showed up 45 minutes late for my listing, and my clients weren't very happy about that. And so it's good just to communicate as much as you can. And that's tough as an agent because you're trying to communicate with your clients and drive and all the things that are happening. But as much as you can, try and keep that communication open so that people know when you're going to get there. Or if you cancel a showing, for sure, let them know that your client decided they didn't want to go, and notify them that they canceled so that their owners can get back in their house. But that's how the showing service works.
Did you say, sometimes they'll say it has to be 24 hours notice?
Sometimes they will, and you'll click on that and it'll
Yeah, let's see today.
if you wanted to go right now, it might block you.
Showing cannot be scheduled at this time.
But look,
Which
you
is
can see
maybe 1 o'clock.
So
Oh,
an hour,
yeah.
probably an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
So it
never seen this.
And then we just get in with our super key.
yeah.
That's how we
Mhm.
do it. I haven't even done that yet. Just
Yeah.
like give a code or something.
Okay.
They said you can practice at the in-car office.
It's so
Okay.
it's so
You
easy
can
now.
you can practice at our office, and any agent's going to have I don't have a key box here, but I should.
Yeah, there's lots up there.
Anybody's going to have a key box in their office, and you can go in and practice opening the key box. That's an easy thing to do. Yeah.
So this whole time that I've been opening doors for agents, I'm doing this. I'm holding the thing up on the bottom, and it's beeping a red
Yeah.
light.